Jace Logan, a roguish space smuggler, had seen his fair share of bizarre occurrences across the stars, but nothing quite like what he encountered on the desolate plains of Scalaris 4. Amid the endless golden sands, a beautiful alien woman knelt next to two large, distressed creatures, their breaths shallow in the oppressive heat. The sun seemed relentless here, and their lives were rapidly slipping away. Jace had landed on this barren world to make a quick drop-off, not to play the hero, but something about the aliens' glowing silver eyes, filled with silent desperation, tugged at his instincts. Against his better judgment, he stepped forward. "Hey there, miss. Looks like you could use a hand," Jace called out, flashing a confident grin. The alien woman looked up, her eyes wide with surprise. She wiped away the tears that had gathered and said, "Please, my companions, they need water." Her voice trembled with emotion. Jace surveyed the creatures, a pair of enormous sapphire-colored felines with luminous fur, sprawled out on the sand, panting heavily. His water supply was limited, but he couldn't just turn his back on them. With a resigned sigh, Jace unclipped his water bottle and handed it to the woman. "This is all I've got. Use it wisely." The woman, whose hands trembled as she accepted the bottle, brushed her fingers against his. A jolt of unfamiliar energy passed between them. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice like soft music. She gently poured the water into the creatures' mouths, and they lapped at it eagerly. Jace took a moment to observe her more closely. She was striking, with delicate features and a presence that was hard to ignore. Her skin was a radiant shade of azure, and her ears tapered to a point, partially hidden by the cascade of silver hair that framed her face. Once the creatures had drunk their fill, the woman handed the now empty bottle back. "I am Lyra, from the Scifian race," she introduced herself. "These are my guardians, Tryon and Rhea." The two giant felines, now revived, studied Jace curiously. One of them, Tryon, slowly patted over and sniffed his hand. Jace reached out, petting the creature, marveling at how soft its fur felt. "Jace Logan," he replied. "What brings someone like you to a forsaken planet like this?" Lyra's face grew solemn. "My ship was destroyed here 3 months ago. We've been stranded ever since, barely surviving," she explained. Her eyes shifted to her companions. "Tryon and Rhea are not accustomed to such harsh conditions. On Scyphia, water is abundant." Jace felt a pang of guilt, realizing he should be heading back to his ship, but the idea of abandoning her and the creatures to die in the desert felt wrong. He hesitated for a moment before speaking. "I have a ship not far from here. I can give you a lift to the nearest spaceport," he said. "Maybe I can even help you find more water for your companions." Lyra looked at him, surprised. "You would do that for us, even though you don't know us?" Jace shrugged, casually, trying to hide the way his heart skipped at her gaze. "Let's just say I'm a sucker for helping out those in need, especially when they come with glowing eyes and golden hair." Lyra's cheeks flushed, her beauty all the more captivating. I don't know how to thank you," she stammered. "You have no idea what this means to us." As they made their way toward Jace's ship, he couldn't shake the feeling that his simple act of kindness was about to complicate his life in ways he hadn't expected. But one glance at Lyra and her majestic companions, moving with grace in the harsh desert light, confirmed that he'd made the right decision. The blazing sun beat down upon them. But Jace hardly noticed, his thoughts consumed by the woman walking beside him. He had crossed paths with many women in his travels, but none like Lyra. There was an air of royalty about her, a hidden nobility that spoke of a life far removed from the desert wastes they now trudged through. Tryon and Rhea walked alongside, their keen eyes scanning the dunes for any sign of danger, making the trio appear almost regal. Jace found himself wondering just who this woman really was, and why she had ended up stranded on this forsaken world. As they neared the ship, Jace felt a wave of unease. He wasn't accustomed to having passengers, especially not one as enchanting as Lyra. There was a nagging fear in the back of his mind. Was he making a mistake? But when she turned to him, gratitude shining in her eyes, his doubts faded. The ship, the Phantom Star, wasn't much to look at, but it would get them where they needed to go. Lyra examined the battered freighter with an intrigued look. "It's perfect," she said softly. Jace smiled at her unexpected words. "Welcome aboard," he said, gesturing toward the entrance. As they climbed aboard, Jace couldn't shake the feeling that his life had just taken a permanent detour. And little did he know, he was about to be drawn into a far deeper adventure than he ever expected. Days passed in the quiet confines of the Phantom Star, with Lyra and Jace exchanging stories of their worlds and adventures. Lyra spoke of Sci-Fi, a lush, green world with sparkling rivers and grand palaces. She described the floating gardens where she had once played as a child, and the pristine lakes where Tryon and Rhea had often swum. Jace, in turn, shared tales from his smuggling career, narrow escapes, clever heists, and dangerous runs. In Lyra's presence, he found himself revealing things he hadn't told anyone in years, dreams he had abandoned and regrets that still lingered. As the days turned into weeks, Jace realized his feelings for Lyra had shifted beyond mere attraction. He longed for her laughter, for the quiet moments they shared in the cockpit, and for the simple touch of her hand. But there was something she wasn't telling him, a hidden part of her past she kept guarded. One night, as they sat together in the galley, Jace couldn't hold back anymore. "Lyra," he said softly, "I know you're hiding something. I can see it in your eyes." Lyra stiffened, her gaze falling to the table. I don't know if I can tell you," she murmured. Jace reached out, gently covering her hand with his. "Whatever it is, you can trust me." After a long, shuddering breath, Lyra met his gaze, her eyes filled with sorrow. "I'm not just Lyra of Sci-Fi," she whispered. "I'm Princess Lyra, heir to the throne of Sci-Fi." Jace's heart skipped a beat, but he said nothing, urging her to continue. "I was promised to a warlord named Kale Vorex, a ruthless man. The marriage was meant to secure peace between our worlds, but I couldn't do it. I couldn't live a life of misery. So I ran. I took Tryon and Rhea, and we fled in the dead of night," she explained, her voice breaking. "But Vorex's forces chased us down. They shot us down over this wasteland, and now I fear they'll never stop hunting me." Jace's heart clenched at the pain in her voice. He squeezed her hand gently. "I had no idea. I'm so sorry you had to go through that." Lyra smiled weakly. "You've already done so much. You saved me. You saved them. But I can't ask you to risk your life for us." Jace shook his head with determination. "You're not asking. I'm offering. And I'll be damned if I let anyone take you or your guardians from me." At that moment, the ship's proximity alarm blared, interrupting their conversation. Jace stood up, instincts kicking in. His hand went to his blaster. "Trouble," he growled, glancing at the view screen. A massive warship emerged from hyperspace, its weapons bristling. Jace's blood ran cold when he saw the insignia on its hull, the deadly mark of Kale Vorex. "They found us," Lyra whispered, her face drained of color. Tryon and Rhea stood at her side, their eyes glowing with readiness. Jace quickly assessed their options. They were outgunned and outmatched, but he wasn't about to let Vorex win. "Strap in," he told Lyra. "This is going to get wild." As the battle began, Jace pushed the Phantom Star to its limits, weaving through asteroid fields and narrowly avoiding laser fire. His heart raced with the thrill of the chase, but his focus remained on one thing: keeping Lyra safe. As the warship fell behind, Jace spotted a safe haven, an old mining station from his smuggling days. It wasn't much, but it would keep them hidden. "It's not much, but it's safer than out here," Jace said, bringing the ship down on the rocky surface. Together, they prepared for the next phase of their journey, whatever it may bring. It was a bond forged through trials and hardships, a love that burned brightly against the cold void of space. One evening, as they sat together, watching the stars from the facility's observation dome, Lyra turned to Jace, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "Jace," she whispered, her voice trembling, "I don't know what I would have done without you. You've given me hope when I had none, strength when I was at my weakest." Jace's heart swelled, his throat tight with emotion. "Lyra, I'd do anything for you," he replied, his voice raw. "You've shown me there's more to life than just surviving. You've given me a reason to fight." In that moment, everything else seemed to vanish. They leaned into each other, their lips meeting in a kiss that promised a future together. For a brief, perfect moment, the vast galaxy and its dangers faded away, leaving only the two of them in the love they had found under the stars. But even as they embraced their newfound joy, Jace knew the shadow of Vorax still loomed over them. Sooner or later, they would have to face the warlord again, and when that day came, Jace swore to himself he would be ready. He would fight with everything he had to protect Lyra and the precious bond they shared. For she was his star, his guiding light in the darkness of space, and he would follow her to the ends of the universe and beyond. As Jace and Lyra explored the hidden corners of the mining facility, they stumbled upon a long-forgotten chamber deep within the asteroid's core. The door, sealed for centuries, hissed open at their touch, revealing a sight that took their breath away. Before them lay an oasis, a verdant paradise in the heart of the barren asteroid. Towering trees with iridescent leaves reached toward an artificial sky, and a crystal-clear stream wound its way through the lush foliage. Lyra gasped, her eyes wide with wonder. "Jace, this is incredible. I've never seen anything like it." Tryon and Rhea, who had been listless and weak in the harsh conditions of space, suddenly perked up. With joyful yips, they bounded toward the stream, splashing into the cool, inviting water. Jace couldn't help but grin. "Well, I'll be damned. Looks like we found ourselves a little slice of paradise." As they wandered through the oasis, marveling at the exotic plants and animals, Jace's instincts, sharpened by years of smuggling, told him they weren't alone. A subtle shift in the air, a rustle in the trees, and Jace's hand instinctively moved toward his blaster. His suspicions were confirmed when a figure emerged from the shadows, a blaster leveled at Jace's chest. The man, grizzled and rough-looking, sneered. Well, if it isn't Jace Logan, I knew I recognized your ship." Jace's hand inched toward his blaster, his tone steady. "Raz Carrick. Should have known you'd show up sooner or later." Lyra looked between the two men, confusion etched on her delicate features. "Jace, who is this?" Jace sighed, his shoulders slumping. "Raz is an old acquaintance. We used to run together before I went solo." Raz barked out a harsh laugh. "Is that what you call it? You double-crossed me, Logan. Left me high and dry on that job in the Orion Belt." Jace's jaw clenched, anger flaring in his eyes. "You're one to talk about double-crossing. You sold me out to the Galactic Patrol. I barely made it out alive." As the tension between the two men grew, Lyra stepped forward, her voice calm but firm. "Gentlemen, please, we have enough troubles without fighting amongst ourselves." Raz's gaze shifted to Lyra, his eyes widening in recognition. "Well, I'll be damned. The Princess of Sci-Fi herself. You've got quite the bounty on your head, sweetheart." Jay stepped in front of Lyra, his stance protective. "Back off, Carrick. She's under my protection." Raz snorted, his blaster unwavering. "Protection? Is that what you call it? From where I'm standing, it looks like you're just using her for your own gain." Lyra placed a gentle hand on Jace's arm, her touch soothing. "Jace has risked everything to keep me safe. He's a good man, no matter what his past may hold." Raz studied them both for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Finally, he lowered his blaster, a wry smile tugging at his lips. "Well, ain't that sweet? The smuggler and the princess. A regular fairy tale." Jace relaxed his stance but kept his guard up. "What do you want, Carrick?" Raz gestured around them, taking in the oasis. "Same thing you want. Rogan, a place to lay low and resupply. This asteroid's a perfect hideout, and that water is a rare commodity around here." Jace's eyes narrowed. "Let me guess. You want to claim it for yourself." Raz shrugged, a smirk on his weathered face. "Can you blame me? A man's got to make a living." The tension between the two men reached its peak, but before things could escalate, Lyra intervened again. "Perhaps we can come to an arrangement. Share the resources of this oasis rather than fight over them." Raz considered her words, stroking his chin thoughtfully. "The princess has a point. We could both benefit from a little cooperation." Jace hesitated, his instincts telling him something wasn't right, but for now, he had no choice but to play along. He needed to keep Lyra and her companion safe. "Fine," he said, his voice guarded. "But I'm watching you, Carrick. One false move, and all bets are off." As they worked together to establish a truce and divide the oasis's resources, Jace couldn't shake the feeling that Raz was hiding something. The man was too eager to cooperate, too smooth in his negotiations. For now, though, Jace had to play the game. Days passed, and Jace and Lyra fell into a routine, tending to the oasis and its inhabitants. Tryon and Rhea thrived in a lush environment, their strength returning with each passing day. One evening, as Jace patrolled the perimeter of the oasis, he heard a splash coming from the direction of the stream. Curious, he made his way toward the sound, pushing through the dense foliage. What he saw made his heart skip a beat. Lyra stood waist-deep in the clear water, her golden hair cascading down her back. The moonlight shimmered off her azure skin, casting an ethereal glow. Jace knew he should look away, give her privacy, but he couldn't. He was transfixed by her beauty, by the way she moved through the water with grace. As if sensing his presence, Lyra turned, her eyes widening in surprise. For a moment, they simply stared at each other, the air thick with unspoken words. Then slowly, a mischievous smile spread across Lyra's face, her eyes twinkling. "Care to join me, Jace Logan?" Jace swallowed hard, his mouth suddenly dry. He knew he should resist, maintain the distance between them, but the temptation was too great. With a grin, he stripped off his clothes and stepped into the water. The cool embrace of the stream was like a balm to his weary soul. As he reached her, Lyra wrapped her arms around his neck, her body pressing against his like a perfect fit. Under the twin moons of the asteroid, they lost themselves in each other, their passion a fire that couldn't be extinguished. For a moment, the dangers and uncertainties of the galaxy faded away, leaving only the two of them, lost in the love they had found in the most unlikely of places. But even as they reveled in their stolen moment of bliss, Jace couldn't shake the feeling that it was all too good to be true. Somewhere out there, Vorax was still hunting them, and Raz's true motives remained a mystery. They would have to be ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. Their love and their wit would be their only weapons against the dangers of the galaxy. For now, though, in this moment, they had each other, and that was enough. Jace couldn't shake the feeling that something was off with Raz. The man was too eager, too willing to cooperate after their initial hostility. Jace found himself watching him closely, his instincts on high alert. One evening, after a long day of tending to the oasis, Jace overheard a hushed conversation coming from Raz's room. His curiosity piqued. He crept closer, straining to make out the words. "I've got the princess and her pets," Raz was saying. "They're hiding out on an abandoned mining asteroid in the Zeta Quadrant. You bring the reward, and I'll hand them over. No questions asked." Jace's blood ran cold. Raz was betraying them, selling them out to Vorax. The sting of the betrayal hit harder than he expected, though he shouldn't have been surprised. In the world of smugglers and scoundrels, loyalty was a rare commodity. For a moment, Jace considered bursting into the room and confronting Raz, but he knew that would only lead to a firefight, one that would put Lyra and her companions at risk. No, he needed to play it smart. Taking a deep breath, Jace composed himself and knocked on Raz's door. The conversation inside abruptly ceased, and a moment later, Raz appeared, his expression guarded. "What do you want, Rogan?" he asked. Jace forced a smile, his tone casual. "Just want to let you know that Lyra and I are planning a little excursion to the far side of the asteroid tomorrow. We think there might be some valuable ore deposits there." Raz's eyes narrowed, but he nodded slowly. "Right. Well, don't let me keep you. I've got some business to attend to myself." Jace clapped him on the shoulder, his grip a little too tight. "Of course. We'll be back before you know it." As Jace walked away, his mind raced. He needed to get Lyra and her companions off this rock, and fast. But he knew Raz would be watching their every move, waiting for the right moment to spring his trap. Back in their quarters, Jace found Lyra tending to Tryon and Rhea, her slender fingers running through their silky fur. She looked up as he entered, her smile warming his heart. "Jace, I was just about to come find you," she said. "I think Tryon and Rhea are finally back to their old selves. They've been so playful today. It's like they're puppies again." Jace's expression must have betrayed his inner turmoil, because Lyra's smile faded, replaced by concern. "What's wrong?" she asked. "Has something happened?" Jace sighed, running a hand through his hair. It's Raz. He's planning to sell us out to Vorex. I overheard him making arrangements. Lyra's eyes widened, her hand flying to her mouth. No, I thought he was starting to come around, that he understood we're all in this together. Jace shook his head grimly. Leopards don't change their spots, Lyra. Raz is looking out for himself, just like always. She stood, her expression determined. Then we need to leave now, before he has a chance to betray us. Jace nodded, his mind already formulating a plan. I have an idea, but it's risky. We'll need to split up. Make Raz think we're still here while we make our escape. Lyra furrowed her brow, but nodded. I trust you, Jace. Whatever you think is best. As they set their plan in motion, Jace couldn't help but marvel at Lyra's strength. She had been through so much, had lost everything, and yet she still found the courage to keep fighting, to keep hoping. He pulled her close, his lips finding hers in a desperate, passionate kiss. I love you, Lyra. No matter what happens, I will always fight for you. For us. She clung to him, her eyes shining with unshed tears. I love you too, Jace. More than I ever thought possible. With one last lingering kiss, they parted ways, each taking one of the creatures with them. Jace watched as Lyra disappeared into the winding corridors of the mining facility, his heart aching with the knowledge that he might never see her again. But he pushed those thoughts aside, focusing on the task at hand. He needed to create a diversion, something that would keep Raz occupied while Lyra and Tryon made their way to the hidden shuttle. On the far side of the asteroid, using his intimate knowledge of the facility's layout, Jace carefully set up a series of small explosives in strategic positions, rigged to detonate remotely. With Tryon by his side, he made his way toward the oasis, positioning himself near the entrance. The air was thick with tension, and it didn't take long for Raz and his mercenaries to appear, weapons aimed directly at Jace. Where's the princess, Logan? Don't try anything. I've got a small fortune riding on this deal. Jace's lips curled into a cold smile. She's long gone, Carrick. And so are you. With a flick of his wrist, he triggered the explosives. The asteroid shook violently as the blast sent debris crashing down onto the oasis. In the chaos, Jace and Tryon made their move, darting toward the hidden shuttle bay. There, they found Lyra and Rhea, ready and waiting. The shuttle was prepped and ready for takeoff. As they blasted off in the asteroid, Jace couldn't help but feel a pang of regret for the paradise they were leaving behind. But as he looked at Lyra, her hand tightly clasped in his, he knew that he found something far more precious, a love that would survive whatever the galaxy threw at them. In the days that followed, as they put more distance between themselves and the asteroid, Jace and Lyra grew even closer. They spent long hours together, talking about their hopes and dreams for the future. When they made love, it was with a passion and intensity that left them both breathless. Jace couldn't get enough of her, the way her skin felt beneath his touch, the way her hair fanned out across the pillow. Even Tryon and Rhea seemed to sense the change in their bond, curling up together in contented sleep, their tails intertwined. But Jace knew their troubles were far from over. Vorex was still out there, and now they had Raz to deal with as well. The betrayal stung, and Jace knew he would stop at nothing to make him pay for what he had done. As they charted a course for the Outer Rim, Jace couldn't shake the feeling that their journey was just beginning. But with Lyra by his side, he knew they could face whatever challenges lay ahead. She was a star, his guiding light in the vast darkness of space, and he would follow her to the ends of the universe and beyond. While the Phantom Star hurtled through the endless void, Jace and Lyra pored over the data they had collected. Their hearts raced with a mix of excitement and dread. The files Raz had unwittingly provided were a goldmine of incriminating evidence, painting a damning picture of Vorex's true nature. He's not just a warlord, Lyra said, her voice trembling with rage. He's a monster. Look at this. He's been plotting to assassinate members of the royal family, to clear the way for his own rise to power. Jace's jaw tightened with fury. And those corrupt officials who arrange your marriage, they're in on it too. They stand to gain power and wealth if Vorex takes the throne. Lyra's eyes blazed with determination. We have to stop them, Jace. We have to expose their treachery and save Scyphia from their clutches. Jace's heart swelled with admiration for her courage. He took her hand firmly in his. We will, Lyra. Together, we'll make them pay for what they've done. As they neared Scyphia, Jace and Lyra knew time was of the essence. They landed the Phantom Star in a secluded canyon far from prying eyes and made their way to the capital city under the cover of darkness. Their first stop was the palace, where Lyra's loyal guards smuggled them into the royal compound. In a secret chamber known only to the most trusted, Lyra addressed her supporters, her voice resonating with righteous fury. "My people," she cried, "I come to you with grave news. The man who would be my husband, the warlord Vorax, is a traitor and a would-be assassin. He seeks to overthrow our government and seize power for himself, with the help of corrupt officials who have betrayed their oaths and their honor." A gasp of shock and outrage rippled through the gathered crowd, their faces etched with disbelief and anger. But Lyra stood firm, her eyes shining with fiery resolve. "But we will not let them succeed," she continued. "We will expose their crimes and bring them to justice. And we will do it together as one people, united in our love for Scyphia and our commitment to freedom and justice." The crowd erupted in cheers, their voices rising in support and solidarity. Jace's heart swelled with pride as he stepped forward to stand by Lyra's side. His hand rested on the hilt of his blaster. "We have evidence of Vorax's treachery," he said, holding up a data pad. "Financial records, secret communications, even plans for an assassination attempt on the royal family. We will present this evidence to the people of Scyphia, and we will demand that Vorax and his co-conspirators be held accountable for their crimes." The crowd roared in approval, ready to take to the streets to spread the word of Vorax's betrayal. Jace and Lyra, their hearts pounding with adrenaline, led the charge. Tryon and Rhea bounded at their heels, their fierce loyalty to their mistress evident in every step. In the days that followed, Scyphia was consumed by a fever of revolution. The evidence of Vorax's crimes was broadcast on every news channel and displayed in every public square, sparking outrage and demand for justice from every corner of the planet. The corrupt officials who had conspired with Vorax were dragged from their offices and forced to face the wrath of the people they had betrayed. Some fled, tried to escape the consequences of their actions, but most were captured and brought to trial. Their guilt was laid bare for all to see. Vorax himself, cornered and desperate, made a final, futile attempt to seize power. He stormed the palace with a handful of loyal soldiers, determined to take Lyra by force and crush the rebellion with an iron fist. But Jace and Lyra were ready for him. With the help of their allies and support of the Scythian people, they met Vorax's forces head-on, their weapons blazing, hearts burning with the fire of righteous fury. In the end, it was Lyra who struck the final blow. With a cry of rage and a flash of her blaster, she felled Vorax where he stood. His body crumpled to ground like a puppet with its strings cut. As the smoke cleared and the dust settled, Lyra turned to face her people, her voice trembling with emotion. "Scyphia is free," she declared, her eyes shining with unshed tears. Free from tyranny, free from corruption, free to chart its own course and build a future of peace and prosperity for all. The crowd erupted in cheers, their voices rising in a chorus of joy and triumph. Jace, his heart bursting with love and pride, swept Lyra into his arms, holding her close as the tears streamed down their faces. In the weeks that followed, Scyphia underwent a transformation. The corrupt officials were stripped of their power and wealth, and their ill-gotten gains were redistributed to the people they had oppressed. The parliament was dissolved, and a new government was formed with Lyra at its head, and Jace by her side. Through it all, their love only grew stronger. They were a team, a partnership forged in the heat of battle, and tempered by the unbreakable bond of their devotion. One evening, as they sat on a balcony of their private quarters, watching the twin moons rise over the capital city, Lyra turned to Jace, a mischievous glint in her eyes. "You know," she said, her voice low and seductive, "there's still the matter of our wedding." Jace raised an eyebrow in surprise, a grin tugging at the corners of his mouth. "Oh, I thought that was just a cover story." Lyra's blue skin flushed a delicate shade of purple as she leaned in close, her breath hot against his ear. "Maybe it started that way, but I've been thinking, why let a perfectly good wedding go to waste? Jace's heart raced with sudden desire. He pulled her into his lap, his hands roaming over the curves of her body. Are you suggesting what I think you're suggesting? Her eyes smoldered with heat as she nodded slowly. I am, Jace. I want you to be my husband, my partner in every sense of the word. I want to rule Scythia by your side and explore the galaxy in your arms. What do you say? Jace's grin widened as he captured her lips in a searing kiss. Their passion was undeniable, and when they finally broke apart, both of them panting and flushed, he rested his forehead against hers, his voice rough with emotion. I say yes, Lyra. Yes to everything. I love you more than life itself, and I can't wait to spend the rest of my days making you happy. Their wedding was a celebration like no other, a glorious fusion of Scythian and human traditions. Jace, resplendent in his finest smuggler garb, waited at the altar, his heart pounding with anticipation. When Lyra appeared, radiant in a gown of shimmering silver, Jace's breath caught in his throat. She was a vision, a goddess made flesh, and he couldn't believe she had chosen him, of all people, to be her partner in life and love. As they exchanged their vows, their voices trembling with emotion, Jace felt a deep sense of rightness, of destiny fulfilled. This was where he was meant to be, by Lyra's side, now and forever. The reception was a joyous affair, filled with music and laughter, and the happy yips of Tryon and Rhea, who wove between the guests' legs. Jace, his arm wrapped around Lyra's waist, couldn't stop smiling. His heart was so full of love and happiness. He thought it might burst. As the festivities wound down, and the guests began to drift away, Jace and Lyra retired to their chambers, eager to begin their new life together. But as they fell into each other's arms, a sudden scratching at the door interrupted the moment. Jace groaned in frustration, disentangling himself from Lyra's embrace. He flung open the door to reveal a very sheepish-looking Tryon and Rhea, their tails wagging. Not now, guys, Jace said, his voice firm but not unkind. The princess and I need some alone time, if you catch my drift. Undeterred, Tryon tried to push past him into the room, but Jace blocked the doorway with his body. Listen up, you two. The princess and I are a little busy right now, so why don't you go chase some squirrels or something? With a final mournful whine, Tryon and Rhea slunk away, their tails drooping in disappointment. Jace shook his head in amusement, closing the door behind them. He turned back to Lyra, his eyes smoldering with desire. Now, where were we? He growled, stalking toward the bed. Lyra, her skin flushed and her eyes heavy with heat, beckoned him closer. I believe you're about to make me the happiest woman in the galaxy, my love. Jace's grin widened as he pounced on the bed, pinning Lyra beneath him. Your wish is my command, my queen, he murmured, his lips trailing hot kisses down her slender neck. As they lost themselves in each other, their bodies moving in perfect harmony, Jace knew he had found his true home, his true purpose. With Lyra by his side, he could face anything the universe had to offer and emerge stronger, more alive than ever before. For they were a team, a partnership forged in the crucible of adversity and tempered by the unbreakable bond of their love. Together, they would build a future bright with promise, filled with adventure, joy, and the endless wonders of the galaxy. As Jace and Lyra's lives intertwined further in the vast expanse of space, their journey became more than just one of survival. It was a testament to resilience, sacrifice, and the undeniable power of love. Their bond, forged through countless trials and hardships, became the foundation on which they built their future, both in the heart of Scythia and across the stars. After their wedding, the galaxy seemed to open up before them, a vast canvas of possibilities. Together, they explored new worlds, each more breathtaking than the last. The love they shared, though born from adversity, now blossomed in the freedom they had fought so hard to obtain. It wasn't just a love that had overcome obstacles. It was a love that thrived because of them. They had discovered a rare peace, a harmony that few ever experienced in such a turbulent world. But even as they reveled in the serenity of their victory, Jace and Lyra knew that peace, like everything else in the galaxy, was fleeting. The universe was vast, and while they had defeated Vorax, there were countless others who would challenge them, others who would test their resolve. But for once, they allowed themselves to savor present, the quiet moments between the chaos. Lyra had assumed her rightful place as the leader of Scythia, now no longer a princess, but queen who had earned the respect and loyalty of her people. She ruled with wisdom, compassion, and a deep understanding of the burdens of leadership. But she was never alone. Jace, ever the smuggler, had become her partner in every sense of the word. He stood beside her, offering counsel, protection, and most of all, love. The people of Sci-Fi, now free from the chains of tyranny, prospered under their rule. The wounds of the past were slowly healed, though they would never forget the sacrifices that had been made. And as the days passed, the new government established by Lyra flourished, a testament to the strength of the people and the resolve of their leaders. Jace, for the first time in his life, had found his place, not just in the galaxy, but in someone's heart. And it wasn't just about the wealth or the thrill of the heist anymore. It wasn't even about surviving from one job to the next. It was about something deeper, something far more meaningful. It was about creating something lasting, a future where he wasn't just a rogue running from one deal to the next, but a man with a purpose, a family, and a woman beside him who made every challenge worth facing. Together, they sought out new adventures, new causes worth fighting for. They helped planets rebuild, brokered peace treaties between warring factions, and even got involved in the galactic political scene, where their influence was slowly growing. Every victory, no matter how small, was celebrated not just as a triumph of skill or strategy, but as a reminder that the path they had chosen was the right one. But the shadow of their past was never far behind. Raz, though temporarily out of the picture, still lingered in the back of Jace's mind. The betrayal still stung, and while he had moved on, the smuggler in him could never fully shake the feeling that there were still pieces of the puzzle left to uncover. Jace had learned long ago that trust was a fragile thing. The universe had a way of testing your limits, and while Lyra was his anchor, the ghosts of the past were always whispering in the back of his mind. One day, while traveling to a distant star system, they received a distress signal, a message from an old contact, someone from Jace's past who had information on Raz's whereabouts. The transmission was short, but the message was clear. Raz is assembling a new force. He's not finished yet. Lyra, ever the diplomat, had been determined to approach this threat with caution. She had the support of the people, and they would be ready for any move Raz made. But Jace, knowing the ruthlessness of his old associate, could sense that this was a trap, a test of their resolve. "We need to make a stand," Jace said, his voice tight with determination as he leaned over the ship's controls, staring at the blinking coordinates on the screen. "We can't keep running. Not anymore." Lyra placed her hand on his shoulder, the warmth of her touch grounding him. "We'll handle this together. We always have." Her voice, calm and steady, gave him the strength to keep moving forward, even when doubts clouded his mind. The two of them, along with Tryon and Rhea, charted a course of the coordinates of signal, knowing that they would face danger head-on once again. This time, however, they were no longer the people they had been when they first met. They had grown, learned, and evolved together, facing down their fears and enemies alike. When they arrived at the location, they found a hidden station, a base well-guarded and fortified. This was where Raz had been hiding, gathering his forces, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. But Jace and Lyra had come prepared. The battle that ensued was fierce. Jace and Lyra fought side by side, their bond a powerful weapon in itself. With each move, they anticipated the other's next step, their movements fluid and in perfect synchrony. Tryon and Rhea fought alongside them, their ferocity and strength unmatched by anything the enemy could throw at them. Despite their superior numbers, Raz's forces were no match for the combined might of Jace and Lyra. As the dust settled and the last of Raz's men were subdued, Jace stood over Raz, his face a mixture of disgust and resolve. "You should have known better than to cross me, Carrick," Jace said, his voice cold and final. Raz, beaten but still defiant, sneered up at him. "You think this is over? There's always someone else. Logan. There's always another fight." Jace's gaze softened, just for a moment. "Maybe, but this one ends here." With a swift motion, Jace ended the fight once and for all, ensuring that Raz would no longer be a threat to him or Lyra. In the aftermath, as they stood amidst the wreckage of the battle, Lyra turned to Jace, her eyes filled with pride. "We did it. We finally put an end to the chaos." Jace nodded, his gaze lingering on her. This isn't just about surviving anymore. It's about building something worth fighting for. And I think we're doing that. Their journey wasn't over. They knew there would always be new challenges, new threats on the horizon. But they had each other, and they had their purpose. Together, they would continue to forge a path in the galaxy, one of hope, love, and justice. As they soared through the vast expanse of space, the stars shining above them, Jace and Lyra knew they were ready for whatever the future held. No longer just two individuals fighting for survival. They were a team bound by an unbreakable bond. With Lyra by his side, Jace believed anything was possible. Together, they would conquer the universe, one adventure at a time, their love lighting their way forever.